There are a lot of people, even people in Congress, that consider this video anomalous. It was played by Representative Eric Burleson. It's the Hellfire missile versus UFO video. He played it at a
Yeah.
recent House UFO hearing. It was presented as an orb continuing to fly after being struck by a missile. And Lou Elizondo came out and said, "We've never seen a Hellfire missile hit a target and bounce off."
It's so
What,
ridiculous.
what were your thoughts on this video when you
Well,
first saw it?
it's a missile hitting a target, and the target breaks into pieces and falls out of the sky. I mean, it's presenting it as if the missile bounces off is just ridiculous. The missile changes direction before it hits the object and kind of after it hits the object, and that's probably just the missile tracking. You know, these missiles, we see on the video that there's a laser designator, which means that the drone that we're seeing that has the camera is shining a laser at this target, which has a kind of a pulse coded sequence, which the missile locks onto. So it's got like
Mm,
this kind of flickering laser, and it says like, "Oh, it's 2 shorts, 3 longs. That's my target. I'm going to go for that one." A bit more complicated, but basically that. And so that it's trying to seek this thing. So it's making adjustments, based on the wind and where it thinks the target is. And so it's coming up and it gets a bit closer. It sees other targets over there. So it's making a little adjustment at the start. Then it hits the target, doesn't detonate, which means that it's probably a soft target, something like a balloon or something like that, or an aerostat, a kind of a blimp.
mm,
And, flies through it, doesn't detonate because to detonate these missiles, they need to have basically a strong G-force. So it needs to rapidly decelerate. And so it needs to hit something basically. And then the circuitry inside will detonate because otherwise, it gets buffeted by the wind or something, or hits a bird and it will detonate by accident. You don't want that. So you want to make sure it's hit the target, the plane or whatever, the ground usually with these missiles. Now, the collision has been described as it being invulnerable to the missile or the missile being split by the object. I don't think that's what's happening at all. This is the missile coming in here. It's quite smoothly kind of comes in and like bashes through the object. The object kind of like takes damage and falls to pieces, and then this bit starts tumbling and maybe changing shape, and these bits are kind of like falling along behind it. And it didn't do that, so it flew through. So when it flew through, now it's kind of no longer got this good track on the laser thing, and so it changes direction as it hits because it's getting all these confusing signals with the laser coming up, and so just
mm.
slightly different direction. That's kind of appears to be all there is to it. And we see the object itself. It kind of starts out as this fairly rigid looking shape, which is not entirely clear if that's the exact shape. But then after it's hit by the missile, it kind of goes kind of floppy and kind of starts flopping around a bit like it's a partially deflated
Yeah.
balloon.
And you could see the pieces kind of
Yeah.
break off. Yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like there's a few bits of debris. There's actually like 6. You can only see 3 clearly in the video. But if you get the original video that was presented well, not the original, but the best quality video that we have available, I've actually asked Eric Burleson if he could release the video, but he hasn't replied to me yet. But they have the best video. But there's a whole bunch of bits of debris, and you kind of see that the the object's being hit. It kind of starts to fall. You can see it's getting lower down on the screen, and the lighter objects kind of hang behind. People get confused though because there's a couple of things that are going on. One, people think, oh, if it's a balloon, then the missile would destroy it immediately.
Mm,
But that's not really the case. Like the missile could have gone close to the balloon. It could have hit the payload beneath the balloon, if that's the actual target, or it could have just missed it entirely and just kind of like disrupted it and kind of ripped it a little bit, or it could have just winged it. Like Donald Trump's ear was winged. It didn't.
yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that nothing happened. It just means that it wasn't a direct hit. Um, so, people think the balloons pop if you stick a pin in it, it pops. Yeah, sure, that's true with a regular party balloon. But it's not true with mylar balloons. Take a mylar party balloon and stick a pin in it; it doesn't explode. It just
Yeah.
starts to leak because when a balloon has a semi-rigid canopy, like a mylar balloon, which doesn't really stretch, or an aerostat like a blimp, they have a very, very low overpressure. So their pressure relative to the atmosphere is basically the same. But balloon, when you blow it up, it's this rubber thing. Lots of pressure is required to actually expand this rubber balloon. Sometimes it's quite hard to blow these balloons up. You're putting an extra half an atmosphere in there
Mm.
sometimes. But with these aerostats, it's very little. So if they get a hole in them, it just kind of flops around and loses its shape rather than explodes.
Did you see anything anomalous about this video in particular, or was it something that you would expect to see a missile hitting a balloon?
Well, the actual impact like that isn't anomalous, and not quite sure exactly what we're looking at because we've got this heat signature which seems fairly hot, and it kind of seems like it's oval shaped, and then it kind of rotates around. But that might be just the balloon, and it
Mm.
might be just it's kind of knocked out of shape when it gets hit. It does seem a little bit hot. It seems like it's glowing hot in the thermal footage, but that could just be the contrast between the balloon, the large balloon being heated by the sun, and the cold ocean, far below. Because
Mm.
thermal cameras, they're very contrast based, so it doesn't take much for something to appear very, very bright, hot,
Mhm.
saturated, next to something that's dark, very cold. The missile itself seemed to be moving a little slow for a Hellfire missile, but that's probably because it's not moving straight across the screen. It's actually moving like away from the screen, essentially. So it starts like at the camera or near the camera and it's moving away. So the path appears to kind of like move more than it actually is moving, and it seems to be moving slower. And then, of course, it looks like it's moving very, very fast. This object looks like it's whizzing across the surface of the ocean. But this is very similar to the old Go Fast video
Yeah.
back from 2017. And that video looked exactly the same. It looked like it was moving very fast. Turns out it was actually not down by the surface of the ocean. It was halfway between the ocean and the camera. It's exactly the same thing with this. We actually have the laser rangefinder figures on screen, and we can see that it's like 6 miles to the surface of the ocean. It's 3 miles to the object. When we go back to where the collision actually happened, back here, and see what happens to those numbers. Right now, they're at 3.4 and 2.7. And if you go to where the collision actually happened, we can see they're going to go from here, we have 3.1 and 2.4. They're going to go to boom, 6.1 and 4.6. And what's actually happened there is that this laser designator that is used to guide the missile to the target is also doing a range finding. So it is telling you how far away the target is. Now, the target has been knocked out of the reticle here, so it's not tracking the target anymore. So it switches from tracking the target, or giving you the distance to the target, to giving you the distance to the ocean. And you see it goes from 3.1 to 6.1 and 2.4 to 4.6. It's doubled, which means that this object is not down by the surface of the ocean, which would be 6 nautical miles away. It's just halfway to the surface of the ocean, because we see at
Mm.
some point it changes from tracking the object to tracking the ocean, so we can see the two different distances. And from that, you can figure out, we've got the horizontal distance as well. You can see exactly how high it was. It was at 12,000 feet. And the drone itself was at 24,000 feet. So it's got this perfect parallax illusion where the drone's moving, the object isn't. So it looks like the object is moving very, very, very fast. And if someone actually did an interesting video where they took that video and they removed all the background movement. So they just kind of isolated the missile and the object and then the fragments.
Mm.
And it just looks like something hanging in the sky, hit
Yeah.
by a missile, knocked to the side, and then bits of it, falls down to the ground. And I think that's really all that's happening there.
Because the moving ocean behind it is part of the parallax effect.
Yeah, it's an illusion.
Yeah.
The object itself need not be moving at all. It could be like perfectly still. I mean, it's probably just drifting in the wind a
Yeah.
few like tens of miles an hour, but it doesn't appear to be. There's no real evidence that it's moving fast. And the
Yeah.
fact that we've got these debris not just, there's 6 bits of debris, some big bits and some small bits. And it seems consistent with it just like, something being hit. Debris doesn't go very far because it's very lightweight, and then it just all starts to sink down.
Hey guys, if you like this clip, there's a lot more waiting for you. Join the Zach Show 2.0 to unlock the full video and audio version of this episode, plus bonus content you won't find anywhere else. Exclusive AMAs, the entire back catalog of premium episodes, and the ability to submit topics and questions for future shows. Subscribe today at thezachshow.supercast.com. I'll see you there.